We are live from the Office of the President here at Gettysburg College for a digital town hall event with President Janet Morgan Riggs. Today's event is co-sponsored by the Gettysburgian and 91.1 WZBT Gettysburg. Hello, I'm Jamie Welch, and I'm the co-editor of the Gettysburgian and news director for WZBT. I'm joined today by Ben Pontz, the news editor for the Gettysburgian. I want to welcome our viewers on Facebook Live and our listeners on WZBT, joining us both on campus and from all around the world.
Today's town hall will be 30 minutes long and will cover topics including academic and programmatic changes on campus, the campus climate, campus politics, and a few personal questions as well. We've asked the campus community to submit their questions, and we will be asking several of those questions during today's event. We encourage you to engage with us by leaving your comments on the Facebook Live chat.
And thank you for joining us today, President Riggs.
Happy to do it.
All right, let's get started. So first, we're focusing on academic and programmatic questions.
Okay.
So from the 2014 to 2015 academic year to the 2017 to 18 academic year, tuition has increased by nearly 10%. It was recently announced that comprehensive fee will spike 3.5% for next year. With an endowment of some $221 million, many find it hard to stomach there's a need for another few $1,000s per student per year. Is a tuition spike of that magnitude each year just a cost of doing business?
That's a great question. And let me tell you, I'm the one that gets to send that letter out to parents about tuition increases. And every time I do it, I get a knot in my stomach because I remember being a parent receiving those letters. And so I want you to know we never take those increases for granted. Neither does our Board of Trustees. And it is our board who approves those increases and approves the budget. And every year they think very carefully about those increases. And actually, our long-term goal was to bring those increases closer in line with increases in CPI, and we're starting to get there. But you asked an interesting question about, is this just the cost of doing business? And in some ways, I suppose it is. We're a very people-driven institution. We do want to provide salaries and benefits that will recruit strong people to Gettysburg to work with our students. So that's one of our large expenses, and we've really been struggling around the benefits, quite frankly, as many organizations have. Last year we tried to change our benefits package to be a little bit more cost efficient. We got some very negative feedback from our faculty and staff about the impact of that. And so we think a lot about how we can care for those who work here. And that is a large part of our budget, as I said. The other thing is that, as you know, we have a large financial aid budget. And so although we announced a 3.5% increase, we're also distributing next year about $60 million in financial aid. So to give you a sense of the way this works, when you look at this year's budget, which is about, the operating budget is about $127.8 million, and you look at the budget for next year, which is about $129.2, the increase budget to budget is about $1.4 million with that increase. That's only 1.2%. And we're trying to squeeze in salary increases. We're trying to squeeze in increases in costs over which we have no control, like benefits, like contracts, like technology, acquisitions for library, and so on, into that very small pie. So it's an interesting situation to be in. By the way, I should also say part of that change in budget is due to financial aid, but it's also due to the fact that our student body is going to be a little bit smaller the next couple of years than it's been the last couple of years. So the number of students we're collecting tuition from is a little smaller, and that's because we had a lot of large classes there for a while. They were a little larger than we could really handle. We had a class of 770 in there, and another class I think of 735. So we're collecting fees from fewer students, and we're aiding almost 70% of the student body. And so that the increase, my point is the increase from budget to budget is not as great as you might think, even given that 3.5% increase. Nonetheless, we're trying very hard to contain costs. You both may have heard about the sustainable excellence process that we've been in the last couple of years, where we've been looking very systematically at the way we spend our money, and we have been trying to reduce costs in an attempt to keep those tuition increases as low as possible.
So why don't merit scholarships move up commensurately with increases in tuition to help students who rely on, who when they signed up to come to Gettysburg College and they enrolled, signed up at a certain dollar amount, and it keeps increasing each year?
Well, that's a good question. That's something that we are looking at year to year. I mean, we come back to that. When is the right point to increase merit scholarships? I will say that our first focus is on financial need, and so that becomes our primary focus in terms of creating a financial aid package for a student. And so there are some students who receive merit scholarships who are also receiving need-based scholarships to supplement those. In those cases, we try very hard to focus on the need of the student.
So for a student with the same need year after year, would you expect the student to have an increase in the amount that they would owe with the 3.5%, or do you expect to be able to cover that through additional need-based aid?
Every year, our financial aid staff looks at a student's financial situation and makes a judgment, depending on that particular financial situation, which may change from year to year. Maybe the need goes down, maybe it goes up, and so we do that every year with every student.
Is there an upper limit to what a Gettysburg College education can cost? Is a six-figure annual cost a possibility down the road? Or?
It's a great question. I don't have the answer. This is an industry question, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not a Gettysburg question. So, interestingly, when we compare ourselves to our closest peers, our tuition fees are a little less, believe it or not, and we're comfortable staying there, being a little less. But I think it's a reasonable question to ask. At what point do we reach some sort of ceiling? I do remember at one point people saying that $50,000 was going to be the ceiling. And now, we're crossing $60,000. I do think there's going to have to be some give in the system somewhere, but again, it's not going to be a Gettysburg solution. It's going to be higher education coming together and trying to think about this more collectively.
And the last question about tuition, I promise. At $65,000 per year, the comprehensive fee now sits at more than 25% higher than the U.S. median household income. The college was also recently listed 14th on the Princeton Review's list of colleges with the least race-class interactions. How can we achieve our mission of increasing diversity and inclusion while continuing to increase tuition year after year?
Well, again, it goes back to our ability to offer financial aid. I think that is key to socioeconomic diversity is important in Gettysburg College. As I mentioned, $60 million next year we'll be putting out there in financial aid. It is a huge priority for Gettysburg College. It's a huge priority of the campaign we're in. It's the #1 priority. We've raised, I think more than $35 million in endowed support for scholarships so far in this campaign. And we will continue to focus there. And that's the key really here, is access. How can we make Gettysburg College education affordable to those who would not otherwise be able to come? And that financial aid bucket is a bucket we want to just keep filling. I feel very committed to that. I'll mention, we just joined an organization called the American Talent Initiative, which right now includes about 55 colleges and universities across the country who are focused on being sure that students from low socioeconomic situations can come to excellent colleges and universities, and encouraging them to do so. It's an initiative that is being sponsored by Michael Bloomberg. He is funding the ability for college presidents and enrollment officers to come together to talk about how we might do better in this area, to share best practices and ideas. He's also funding some research for us. We're in pretty good company. I was in New York last week for one of the early meetings of this organization, and there in the room were the presidents of Harvard and Princeton and Yale and Penn and Williams and Amherst, Hopkins. It's a very nice group for Gettysburg to be a part of. And the goal, collectively, is by 2025 to enroll 55,000 more low-income students into our colleges and universities. And these are all colleges and universities that have very strong graduation rates, which we think is really important. So we're focused there. Important initiative for Gettysburg.
All right.